It is bonus edition here on the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast. Another commitment episode as we break down another massive haul by the Texas Longhorns to go out to the state of Florida and get Cedric Baxter, one of the better running backs in this 2023 class, to discuss that and to go in depth on how the Longhorns were able to do it. We're bringing in the editor of Horns 24/7, the Texas site on the 24/7 Sports Network, Mr. Mike Roach. First of all, Mike, how did Texas get this done? How did they land Cedric Baxter?
Well, the big answer there is Tashard Choice. Their offseason hire at running back coach kind of paid dividends immediately as Choice had built that relationship with Baxter and his family going back to his time at Georgia Tech. And there was a lot of trust there. I remember when they were able to get Baxter on an unofficial visit in the spring. Obviously with guys like that in the Southeast, it's hard to put a lot of stock into a school like Texas, getting them away from some of those powers down in Florida or in the SEC. And once he came in talking to people and hearing the feedback, it was really all about the work Tashard Choice had put in on the front end of that recruitment. Once they were able to get him there, they got him back in June for an official visit. And from there, it's kind of seemed like it's all been Texas. I mean, it has been a longer runway than we anticipated. I think coming out of the official, we thought it could go down fairly soon, but he wanted to wait until this date for a reason. And that's, how it kind of shook out.
Yeah, Cedric Baxter did take that official visit to Austin in middle of June. 6'1", 215, the number 2 rated running back in the top 24/7 rankings for this 2023 class, number 31 nationally. So if signing day was today and if the cutoff was today, Mike, he would be a 5-star prospect. When you see his film, when you see his skill set and the traits that he has, how do you see him fitting into that Texas offensive attack?
I think he can slot right in and really fight for playoff. And there are a lot of expectations right now that Bijan Robinson will finish his junior year, play sensationally as he has his entire time in college, and likely head on to the NFL. And that would leave, a vacancy at the running back position where Baxter could maybe slide in and compete for playing time immediately, if not outright win the starting job. He is, just seeing him on film looks like a pro-ready frame at his size. And what's alarming is how well he changes direction, and especially in small spaces. So I think he can fit in there. It's a crowded and talented running back room in Austin, but he is as talented, I think, as anybody they've signed or would have signed since Bijan Robinson. And talking to a source at Texas who feels like he could be as big of an impact on the field for them as anybody in this class that they signed, in a class that includes Arch Manning and Jonte Cook and guys like that. They really think a lot of Cedric Baxter's talent.
Yeah, Texas obviously has had a terrific summer on the recruiting trail, highlighted by landing the number 1 prospect in this class. And you think about what Arch Manning and what Cedric Baxter can be able to accomplish together in that same backfield. This only adds to that momentum that Steve Sarkisian is building there in Austin, right?
Yeah, I mean, great players want to play with other great players. That's what we're constantly told. That's kind of what the pitch has been from other, these Texas recruits to other guys, to say we're building a strong class here. Come join us. And I think that's, as you continue to get good players, you have other good players look your way. And we saw that with a guy like Peyton Kirkland, who didn't even have Texas in his top group. And then all of a sudden, is commits to them because he likes kind of what they're putting together there. And I think, with Baxter, that just adds even more to it. And I think it's a big perception win, especially when you can pull a kid out of a state like Florida, who is being so hotly pursued by schools like Florida and Miami, and win him and get him all the way to Texas. It's a win all the way around for them.
Before we go, Mike, I know that this season is super important, not only for that perception, but also for the ability for Steve Sarkisian to continue to add to some of the success that he has during the offseason, right? Like, if you do it during the season, it only takes your recruiting a different level. They've got that big game early on in the season against Alabama in Austin. What have you heard about the potential for that being a mega recruiting weekend, potentially with the staff trying to make a big impression on recruits?
Yeah, I mean, everybody. I think if you ask most staffs, they would tell you they would prefer no visitors on a weekend like that, just because they are so busy. But I think they also understand it is a great opportunity to make a big impression if you've got that big game atmosphere on campus, and if you can pull off a win. I mean, think about how impactful it could be. I know in talking to just about every recruit that is on the board for Texas, they are all pointing to that weekend, whether it be official or unofficial. Everybody wants to get to Austin, get into town, and be able to see that up close. And it's going to be a very good measuring stick for where this program is, where they hope to go. If they want to compete for national championships, they're going to do it against the best in the country. So we expect it to be a massive weekend. Just off the top of my head, like in the past couple of years, I think LSU in 2019 and Notre Dame in 2017 or 2016 were like the two massive marquee games that I can remember like this, where we were already starting to put visit lists together a month and a half in advance, and this one has potential to be the biggest for sure.
Mike, I think the phrase was savages want to play with savages, and Texas is getting one of the better savages in this 2023 class, a 4-star running back, Cedric Baxter from Orlando, Florida, committing to Texas. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me as always, Blair.
All right, that is Mike Roach. And for our producer, Lance Glynn, I am Blair Angulo. Thank you so much for listening to this bonus edition of the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast as Texas goes into the state of Florida to get premier running back Cedric Baxter.